So I guess we have. Okay, good morning. This is Mrs. Nimni's class, and she will not be in today, so I am here for this day. She will be back in Yad Hashem for Monday. So,
you haven't had her yet, Mrs. Lemon.
So let me.
But you'll still be our Shabbos Halacha teacher, right?
Yes, that continues. So that stays for the Shabbos. And
Rabbi Dubai for
Chana,
but we'll have Mrs. Lemon.
Chana. Okay, Chaya Atkins. Chaya Atkins, okay. And the Chana Bera?
I'm here.
Oh, here we are, okay. Yesterday. And Rachel Chana Tihar, and Liba Rivka, and Rivka Ram, see, Rachel Connor, Chana, woman.
We're here.
Okay, Chad is not here, and Beth is also not. Okay.
She's in all of it too, or something.
What, are you on my list? So your name is?
Leah.
Leah? Goldman, okay.
Just decided to be a little cute, but I'm not.
Lisa talk to the teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think level one is the best, whatever.
Rabbi, don't worry about it. It is.
I think we are the best. But whatever.
You're the best.
You are the best, Hannah. Whatever, which Hannah? It's like the Hannah, so you know. I feel so.
Okay.
Rabbi, I'm not even listening.
Okay. So, welcome. Now, this is a continuation of yesterday's class. We were tracing Shulchan Aruch, which is a code of Jewish law.
Do we need the booklet?
We gave out the booklet, yes. We'll look at some of the excerpts of the booklet. Yesterday it was pretty, I finished off pretty hurriedly. So, so we traced that Hashem gave the Torah, both the written Torah and also the oral law. The explanation goes with it. We see the Torah tells us that the ritual slaughter was avachta kasher tzvi sicha. Nowhere in the Torah does it say the laws of how to slaughter and make an animal kosher. But it does say, you will slaughter the animal kasher tzvi sicha as I commanded you, which means there had to be an oral tradition that went along with the ritual slaughter. It's very exact, it's very detailed, and all of these details are halacha, Moshe, Sinai. These are laws that Moshe Rabbeinu gave explicitly. The same way it also says the interpretation of the Torah. It says if someone damages someone, so it says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So what happens if someone does destroy someone's eye? According to the Torah law, what do you do? What do you do?
I think they have to pay for medical expenses.
Yes, it is compensation, monetary compensation. So why does the Torah say an eye for an eye, which means if someone took out someone's eye, you take out the other person's eye? So there we have the Talmud who explains why that is not possible and gives the explanation why it is a monetary compensation. But why does the Torah tell us an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth?
I'm just guessing, but maybe
You can guess.
Hashem is going to make it even.
It is also, that's one thought. Why else? Well, why the Torah could have said that you're going to pay for it. In many other cases where a person does damage, the Torah says what you should pay. So why does it say an eye for an eye?
To draw some sort of equivalence.
Yes.
make like a balance of
Okay,
like,
but also to tell us how serious this is. Really, the person deserves to have his eye taken out because that's what he did to someone else. Mida connected mida. However, the Torah tells us that's not in actuality. That would be in theory. That's what the person deserves. But actually, so again, without Torah Shabbal Peh, without having the oral tradition that Moshe Rabbeinu explains what the Torah means, where it's meant to be taken literally and where it's meant to have an explanation that goes with it. So then that is what we follow. So Torah was given with the oral explanation and it was not written down. This was handed down from generation to generation. And the same is also, it says in the 10 Commandments, do not do any work on Shabbos. And that is our topic that we teach on Thursdays. The Torah said, do not do any work on Shabbos. So if I were to ask, without having the background that we had at the beginning of the year, what does it mean not to do any work on Shabbos? So what would you think it means?
Go to work.
Not to go to work, okay. So if you were to read the 10 Commandments that says do not work on Shabbos, means do not go to work. So in that case, can you be a babysitter on Shabbos? Are you allowed to be a babysitter on
If you're
Shabbos?
paid after Shabbos.
Okay.
If you pay after.
Okay, you have to have also that it should not be only Shabbos work, but you have to also do something before Shabbos, after Shabbos, so it will not be exclusively a Shabbos activity. But as far as halach is concerned, you could babysit. What else would we think if we just read the 10 Commandments and says not any work on Shabbos? How would we translate that?
Maybe to not like learn, like to not go to school.
Not to go to school? Is that work? Okay, matters to whom? Yes,
Can you study
sure.
things?
Sure, yes, but right now we're speaking about taking the literal translation and how Moshe Rabbeinu explained this. So right now we're saying, well, how would we take it literally? What would we think?
Working.
Yes, working is,
Working is like the, I don't know how to explain in English, when you have like the
Like
physical work.
okay, exerting yourself,
With electricity work.
Yes.
working up a sweat. In other words, if I were to ask you according to literal translation, this table is very heavy. I can't pick it up. Maybe I could, but so now, if I were to say that we do need this table in the other room, and whoever's going to carry this table is certainly going to work up an exertion. According to our literal translation, would you be able to do this on Shabbos?
But in Shabbos you can really like move and put something in a new place, no? Like.
So, well, this table, we'd have to see if this table is muktzah, if we are permitted to move it. So all of this is what that would be our conclusion, because that's how we translate the word work. However we think work means, that's what we would say the 10 Commandments means. However, that is not so. So we do need a table in the other room on Shabbos. If it's not a muktzah table, it's not a table that cannot be moved, you can pick it up, carry it in the other room, even though it will be an exertion.
So we can move.
You are permitted, yes. So what is the translation now that is our interpretation, but what is the true interpretation of do not do any work on Shabbos? What is that?
the 39 malachas.
39 categories of work. How do we know 39 categories? Because Moshe Rabbeinu told us that he told us that build a Mishkan, and he said on Shabbos, all work in the Mishkan, or work in the tabernacle, or work for building a house for Hashem is suspended. You're not allowed to do any of the building of the Mishkan on Shabbos. And the Mishkan had 39 categories of how it was put together and all the activities that took place. So that is the definition of work. Then we also have, as we explained at the beginning of the year, the rabbinic additions. So this is the tradition that came down for more than 1,000 years. There was no text. There was only the Torah, written Torah, Tanakh, and you had the oral tradition that was handed down. And where did it go back to? It went back to Moshe Rabbeinu. You were able to actually trace. This is the rabbi who received smicha from this rabbi, from that rabbi, back. So the Rambam lists 40 generations with the conclusion of the one who redacted the Talmud, the Gemara. So we were able to trace all of those Anoyim Amoraim who gave us this tradition of the oral Torah all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Rambam actually lists all of these generations. So then we had the okay, so those who are joining us today, let's see what we have some of the one, two. Okay, so okay, yes, this is okay. So then we have going down with the oral law. We had the Mishnah, and here we have the English translations of the Mishnah. What I wanted to show you what the Mishnah is like. So it has 61 tractates, 61 topics, and this one is with an English translation and some commentary as well. You have this. I took this from downstairs library. So we have the Mishnah with one form. Then you have the Mishnah again with the English translation. This is a shorter commentary. This one's a longer commentary. They have very good commentaries on the Mishnah. In the Hebrew, so you have many commentaries on the Mishnah throughout the 61 tractates. So the Mishnah would be in the center, and all the commentaries would be all around it. So you actually, those are the pamphlet that I gave out yesterday. You actually have the Hebrew edition, where you have the Mishnah is a few lines, and the commentaries take up the whole page, which tells you sometimes they will. So the Mishnah is a separate work, and then when it comes to the Talmud, the Mishnah and the Talmud is incorporated in one volume. So you could study Mishnah independently, and then you could study the Mishnah as it is also a part of the Talmud. In the Talmud itself, also you have in the center, you have the text. And then on the sides, we have our trusty explainer, who's the same one who also wrote on Chumash, and that would be Rashi. Everyone is familiar with Rashi? So Rashi is Rabbi Yitzchak ben Shlomo. And he was born 1040. He lived until 1105. So his commentary on Chumash is indispensable in order to be able to understand Chumash, going up the running commentary, that's Chumash and Rashi. And he did the same also for the Talmud, a running commentary on the Talmud, explaining all difficult words, explaining all difficult concepts. So really, you could not really understand the Talmud without having the running commentary of Rashi that goes along with it. Rashi in Talmud is not a codifier. He's not giving his halachic verdicts. He is only doing it as a commentary. And in the Talmud, not always is this particular place that is the final conclusion. So the topics in the Talmud go according to the subject. So let's say you have the subject of Shabbos. So the tractate of Shabbos has 156 pages. Each page has all the commentaries around it. In some yeshivas, for the entire year, they will spend learning 10 pages of Talmud in depth. So they'll spend a whole year learning 10 pages of Talmud in depth.
Wow.
With all the with commentaries that explain in depth the theories. So that's, but our yeshiva does not do it that way. Usually our yeshiva covers about 35 pages in depth. And the remainder of the tractate is learned without going into depth, but they usually finish the tractate through the year. If it's a smaller tractate, they will also take an additional tractate as well. So there are two tracts. There's the in-depth tract, and then there's covering the material. So that is called Iyun, going deeply into it. Then there's Girsa, meaning running through that you should also, so Girsa would include learning the Gemara with Rashi, and also there is Tosfos, the additional commentary. The Tosfos is a school of Talmudic study, and the ones who founded the school were Rashi's grandchildren. So we have the Tosfos, which also, again, as I said, Shabbos could be a topic under the tractate of Shabbos, but also it could be dispersed throughout the whole Talmud, the details of Shabbos. So it's not only exclusively in this particular tractate, it could be dispersed. So unless you know the whole Talmud, you would not know the details of Shabbos. So you have Shabbos is one tractate, Eruvin is another tractate, then it's dispersed throughout all others. This is what Tosfos does. Tosfos takes information that is in other tractates, brings it to the tractate that is being studied as the main. Let's say when it comes to Shabbos, he will bring Shabbos information from other tractates, and sometimes there is a discrepancy between the two, and Tosfos will try to resolve that it's not a discrepancy, but it's speaking about different situations. So this is what Tosfos does. Sometimes he explains it differently than Rashi. So this also, you have to really develop your mind of critical thinking, that whatever you see, you have to analyze it and to be able to understand it well, not just to read it. So you can't read Talmud. You have to study Talmud. You have to really put in effort in understanding. Yes.
Who studies the whole Talmud? Because I'm sure a lot of people learn.
Well, right now they have something that's called Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi was instituted by in the 1920s. He instituted that everyone should learn one page a day. And that way he felt that when people will meet throughout the world, Jewish people, to be able to have something in common, they can discuss the page of the day and have something in common. So there are,
years, no?
excuse me?
They are going to finish in 7 years.
In 7 years. It's a 7-year program, seven sum. There's over 2,000 pages in the Talmud. So it's but it is a very fast pace, because you're doing a page a day. You really to retain all that information. That is super brain. So, but there are people who do know all of Talmud, well. They have a special institution for that. But people who register to be a part of that, they get tested every month. It's a very, this became now, the Talmud, I think, became something that was never before in modern history being studied as today. So you have doctors, lawyers, and all types of people from all types of backgrounds who are studying the Daf Yomi. And so that is something that is now accessible today. You also have the fact that you have, with the English translation, it made it easier for people to be able to study. But the Talmud is written in Aramaic. The Mishnah is written in Hebrew, so people who know Hebrew could read the Mishnah, at least translated. When it comes to Aramaic, unless you learn the language, unless you learn the vocabulary, unless you learn the grammar, so you're really at mercy of Rashi trying to help you out.
Do people learn that? Are there schools where it's just they're fully dedicated so that it doesn't go away?
Yes. Yes. So Daf Yomi became very popular. When they had the conclusion last time, I think there were 50,000 people who participated in the Siyum, in the conclusion of Daf Yomi. They had it in a stadium, and they had it via Zoom and other places worldwide. So this is something that's, as it goes on, more and more people join that program. There's also a program where there's a Mishnah Day. There's a program for Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, one paragraph a day. So there are many, the Tanakh. So there are many different now organizations that sort of organize it where you could actually hear classes on all of these topics. So a person is learning Daf Yomi. There are many, many different classes available online, and people choose whom they would like to learn with as a study partner or as a teacher. So then we also had that together with the Mishnah at the same time, you also had the Medrash, and the Medrash goes according to the Chumash, and it fills you in on information. So when it speaks about, let's take a Medrash that we have over here, that we have an excerpt of a Medrash, and the Medrash is speaking about the topic speaks not to speak Lashon Hara. So there the Medrash on that pasuk gives us a story. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel tells his servant Toby, get me something in the market that is the best that you could find. So he comes back and he brings a tongue. Then he tells him, okay, bring me the worst you could find. Comes back with a tongue. So he says, isn't that a contradiction? Is it the best or the worst? So Toby answers, it matters how you use it. If you're saying using your mouth, you're using your tongue for positive speech, then it's the best. If you use it for negative speech, then that's the worst. So this is an example of a medrash that goes to the pasuk and it actually gives us more of an expanded understanding about this. So it actually have the medrash that goes through all chumashim. So you have this also. This is taken on. This is taken also in on the premises. You have this in your library. I took it from the library. So now we come to the same time we have the Medrash. You have the Zohar, also at the same time as the Mishnah was being redacted. So the same authors, the same authors of the Mishnah, or the same authors of the Medrash. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the author of the Zohar.
Wait, you said the same authors of
The Mishnah.
the Mishnah are the same
Authors of the Medrash,
Midrash.
and the Zohar. They are Tanoim. So what happened is, after Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, after Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, redacted the Mishnah, so that closed the Mishnah. And whatever was the final verdict in the Mishnah, that became binding for all generations, because all the leaders of Jewry were together and made a consensus that this is the way of practice. Even though the Mishnah will bring other opinions that are different, but that's only an individual, it ruled by the majority. The majority is what the ruling is. Then came the explanation. The next generation that followed were called Amoraim, and they are the ones who explained the Mishnah, brought the sources. The Mishnah is very, very concise, very short. And they brought the sources and expanded it and brought the examples. So they are Amoraim. According to Kabbalah, there are different souls. You've learned in Tanya, you learned about the world of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya. So the souls of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Avos, the Nevi'im, the prophets, their neshamas come from Atzilus. And they view the world as Atzilus views the world. They're only an extension of Hashem. They have no ego. Their will is what Hashem wants. They are the tzaddikim, they have no yetzer hara. They are the leaders who Hashem dispersed throughout the generations to have some of these neshamas of Atzilus, even when we don't have the prophets or the avos, but you do have individuals in each generation who had that role of being the neshamas of Atzilus. They saw everything clearly, and they were able to illuminate the world from seeing it as it is from Hashem's perspective. Then you have Olam HaBriya, that is already a world of creation. Those are the Tanoim. The Tanoim come from Olam HaBriya, and therefore their view of it is not the same as the prophets, Moshe Rabbeinu, the others. but they're also tzaddikim, and they also they learn the Torah as it's being taught in Olam HaBriya. Then you have the Torah as it's being taught in the Talmud by the Amoraim, that's Olam HaYetzirah. And then you have, as it is in the later generations, after the Talmud closed, then the Olam HaYetzirah Torah closed. Now you have the Torah of Olam HaAsiyah, the world of action. Now, the analogy is, when you're learning Torah, do you have to go through the whole process of having a question and answering it and questioning it back and forth, till you come to a conclusion? So it matters, let's say, if we were to be in this room and the lights are off and it's night, there's nothing shining in from outside, and you're trying to get from here to the door, and I'm bumping into different things and I have to figure out what it is. Is this a table? Is it a chair? Is it a bottle? Is it a tzedakah? How would I know if it's a tzedakah? Sounds like money. This must be a tzedakah. Then I go like this. I can't see it, but I go like this. I say, it has a hole to put the coin in. Then for sure it's a tzedakah. Then all the other ways, if I know what a tzedakah is, I analyze this, I come to a conclusion what it is, but I don't see what it is. So that would be the later generations, when the light of the Torah is not as bright as it is in the other worlds. So therefore they have to analyze, they have to go through the process of trying to come to a conclusion, step by step, taking away all of the questions that you have until you're able to reach that level. However, as the earlier generations, matters how much light you had. In Olam HaYetzirah, you had more lights. It wasn't as bright, but at least you were able to make out forms. So it's easier to know what it is. But if I were to take a sefer like this, when it's dark, I wouldn't know what it is. Unless I had this before, I'm able to, I know Braille, I'm able to feel these letters. Again, the more light there is until you come to Olam HaTzilas, and there it is all bright. There are no questions to begin with, because everything is seen as it is. And therefore, this is also what, as the generations went, it became darker and darker and darker until we have to analyze all these things. So the conclusion of the Talmud that closed the whatever conclusion the Talmud came. This was universal, whether you're Sephardic, Ashkenazic. There is no difference at the basic Talmudic halachas. However, when it comes to traditions, there's the differences between the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic communities. Can you give me some differences between the two in halacha? Pesach with the rice. Pesach and rice, legumes. So it's interesting that when the Iranian children who were rescued from Iran, where the Shah was disposed and the Ayatollah came in, they came to Crown Heights, and more than 1,500 Iranian boys and girls, starting from young to college age. And they had a seder for them here in Crown Heights. And the Rabbi said that they should have rice, because this is what their tradition is, and that's what they're accustomed to, and that's what their Pesach is. They eat rice. And he wanted them to feel at home. The Rabbi came to visit them at the Seder night. And he went into the kitchen, and he went to check if they actually made rice for the children. Now, why is it that the Sephardic community did not make the restriction on legumes and anything that, why did they not make the restriction?
Because they had it.
Also, they were,
Or they were grown separately.
okay, so now you look at the reasons why rice was prohibited in the Ashkenazi communities, and you'll see that those circumstances did not apply how it was in the Sephardic communities. Since they did not apply those circumstances, there was no need to make a restriction. So one of the things were, how was the rice grown? Was it also grown in a wheat field where you had, after the wheat harvest, you would take it off, but they would still spring up, the wheat stalks, And that would be when you do the harvest, you would also harvest the rice with the wheat stalks. And then when you're going to make, cook something, whatever it's going to be, now you're going to get chametz. Or another thing is, did they make rice bread? What also is, they did not want to make any confusion that you're going to make rice bread and you're going to make wheat bread, and then the wheat bread is going to be chametz, and the rice bread you can leave as is. You don't have, there's no, does not become fermented. So if they did not do that, and then there was no confusion. They were concerned about the confusion that came up as well. So we have different traditions that the Ashkenazi communities made, the Sephardic communities did not make, or vice versa. So now we have going down with the Rambam and Rif, that they were in the Sephardic, the Rosh, Rabbi Asher, he was Ashkenazic, and the coming to the tour, we had in your booklet, you had the we have a page. We have page 30, page 33 in the booklet of yesterday. We have the 4 sections of the Shulchan Aruch, taking some of the topics that are there. And again, we said that it was based on the Rabbi Yaakov ben Asher. And he collected all of the halachas that are relevant today and put it according to topics. Everyone else would have a running commentary on the Talmud. In other words, as you're learning the Talmud, you would see the conclusions in each section. But in order to know what to do, you'd have to go to each Talmud and see what's there. But you did not have a collection of actually how to conduct yourself from the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep and all the holidays. You did not have that as a separate work. So this is what the Torah did. He took and made 4 sections, and he did it according to topics. This was something that was new. And I'm reading here from page 33, the booklet from yesterday. So Orach Chaim is the first topic. You have the daily prayers, you have the tefillin, you have tzitzis, you have shema, you have the blessings, grace after meal, you have Shabbos, festival, fasts, and whatever else is done throughout the day. You have the grace after meal, to wash, how to conduct your meal. All of this is part of Orach Chaim. Here we have the Shulchan, then we have Yehudeya, dietary laws, the ritual slaughter, salting of meat and dairy, charity, Torah scrolls, mourning, Ibn Ezra's matrimony, marriage, divorce, ksubas, Mishpat, the witnesses, judges, loans, creditors, debtors, lost property, partnerships, agents, sales, inheritance, gifts. These are all topics that are a part of the Shulchan Aruch, 4 volumes. Then, so we had Yosef Cairo. He lived from 1488 till 1575. He wrote this, the Shulchan Aruch, which is the conclusions. Then we have on page 35, the Moshe Isserlish, who was the Ashkenazic authority, world-recognized Ashkenazic authority. He lived from 1520 to 1572, and he wrote he added to the text of the Shulchan Aruch the Ashkenazic customs, wherever there is a difference. So you have the center is the Shulchan Aruch and the Amod, the Mappa, the tablecloth, the set table and the tablecloth, and around it you have the commentaries. So again, learning a page of Shulchan Aruch will take you more than a day if you're going to learn the commentaries. Now, as far as the Shulchan Aruch is concerned, there is no difference between the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Brura and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. They all follow the Shulchan Aruch. So where are the differences? The commentaries. What the commentaries did is they expanded, so they took the law in the Shulchan Aruch, because that would be a more general law, and how does it applied? There you have the commentaries. And there are differences of opinions among the commentaries, how to apply the laws of Shulchan Aruch. This is where all the different works differ. Which commentary or which case did you choose in this situation? And there's where there's a difference. The Alter Rebbe, he chose the Magen Avraham, Rabbi Avraham Gabiner. He felt that he was the greater authority in most cases. And the others, like the Mishnah Berurah, they would say there's also the Taz, Rabbi David. So this is the difference between the two. When it comes to the commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch, who do you follow when it comes to applied situations? And there you have the difference between the Alter Rebbe and the others, not in the Shulchan Aruch, not in the Ramah, there, that is final. But when it comes to the commentaries, that's where you have the differences in the Shulchan Aruch. So here you have the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch as it is printed in Hebrew. And the Alter Rebbe also took all his sources where he took it from. He did not, thank you. And so the Alter Rebbe also wrote his sources. Where did he get this information? If there is something that is something innovative. So he did not take it on himself. He usually will quote it and also verbatim will put it into the Shulchan Aruch. He was commissioned by the Dover of Mizrich, the Mizrich Magid, the Magid of Mizrich. He was commissioned. He was the youngest student, but he told him to write a Shulchan Aruch that's going to be universal. It's not a Hasidic Shulchan Aruch. It is meant for all of Klal Yisrael, and because it's a halachic work. And he also wrote all of his all his sources where he got his information. So you will be able to follow and see what is the source of his psak. The Mishnah Berurah, but so here you don't have the actual text of the Shulchan Aruch. He incorporated it into his work. The Mishnah Berurah quotes the Shulchan Aruch, and then around it he writes his commentary, and he will also use many a time the Alter Rebbe. Sometimes he will call him by his source by name, Rashaz, Reb Shneil Zalman. Sometimes he will say the Rav, and sometimes it says Achronim, the later commentaries. Doesn't name by name. The reason is because the Mishnah Berurah, Yisrael Meir, did not write his sources. He had his students write the sources. So it matters how close they were to Chassidus, if they would give recognition to the Alter Rebbe or not. Just call them Achronim, the later commentaries. Whose later commentaries? You guessed. But those who did honor the Alter Rebbe, they would put in Rashaz, the Shneil Zalman. So that's why you do have in the Mishnah Berurah, you have the commentary, you have the sources, and sometimes the Alter Rebbe is given recognition, sometimes not. But the Alter Rebbe certainly was a source to reckon with. So you have it also in English. We have now the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in English with English translations. And there's a new edition that came up with the white covers that has more commentary to it as well. Okay, I hope this has been, so now we're ready to start Hilchos Shabbos, just the halachas themselves. That's the background. I was hoping that this would be Shabbos. And let me say a medrash that we have quoted here. You look at your booklet, it says, if you will light the candles of Shabbos, you will merit to see the lights of the menorah of the base of the Mikdash. That is the medrash of the day. Okay, so
Well, right now they have that.
I heard it was